and welcome to Tonight on Monday. In the studio this evening, your chance to phone in and help make your neighbourhood a safer place. Plus, Luke Casey has another entry in his Dale's diary. Tonight he travels to Nidderdale to check out an ancient form of power still turning after all these years. Carolyn Hodgson has another look at how to be on TV. Tonight she meets budding young journalists with burning ambitions to be television news hounds. And I'll be finding out what makes ordinary people want to be special. Office worker Kath Whittington pounds the beat, keeping the peace in her spare time. Hello again. Also coming up on tonight's show, we're featuring a Crime Stoppers special. You can help to catch criminals and solve crimes in your area. We have a bank of officers on the telephones to take your calls about any crime you may know about. We'll be featuring pictures from security videos of crimes being committed later in the programme. And if you can help the police to solve a crime, then call now on 0800 555 111. That's 0800 555 111. Your call will come straight through to these policemen. Well, more of that later in the programme. Let's move on now to more usual Monday matters, and we've got Luke Casey with us as usual on a Monday. What have you been up to?
Well, we've got an old friend of the programme, actually, to see once again. I'm sure regular viewers of the diary will recall a character called Alan McEwen. We first saw him messing about with old boilers. He loves steam boilers, you see, and renovates them and everything else. But also, in more recent times, we've seen him get a campaign going to save some of the old mill chimneys. Now, you would have imagined, Christine, wouldn't you, that West Yorkshire had so many mill chimneys, you wouldn't want to save them, but they're fast disappearing, and he's very, very enthusiastic about them. The great thing about him is that not only is he an antiquarian, you know, it's an industrial historian, but he's a mechanical engineer, so he understands the nuts and bolts of his stuff.
And he's going to show you around a little bit up in Nidderdale, is it?
Nidderdale,
yes.
And the subject this week, enthusiastically as usual, is water wheels.
Water wheels. OK, let's take a look.
Where are we now, Alan?
We're at Darley Mill, Luke. Darley Mill, at the side of the Darley Beck in Nidderdale. And this beautiful edifice here is the back end of Darley Corn Mill, which I think in Darley there's always been a corn mill, probably dating back to medieval days. It's a typical site for a manorial corn mill. And now just look at the splendid water wheel.
It seems rather fitting, doesn't it, that it's raining in the middle of summer here, which proves really why Nidderdale was so good for water wheels.
Abundant high rainfall, that's what it were, Luke. 1874. Absolutely splendid piece of engineering, very early engineering for this part of the world, yet in supreme order.
Now, the whole setup here, Alan, is interesting, isn't it? Because the way the water comes down and is stored and everything else to go onto the wheel. It's quite an excellent setup, isn't it?
It is. It's a lesson to people interested in water power, because just up the dale there we've got the Darley Beck, and we've got a weir constructed there by the ingenious people who constructed the mill rightery originally. There's very little recorded about the history of the mill. All the way from the bottom to the top of this dale, there were numerous mills water-powered. In fact, at one stage, I think 1835 strikes a chord with me, there were about 70 water-powered mills at that time throughout the Nidderdale and the tributary valleys.
Do you think the people who worked in the mills found the wheels as fascinating as we do now as visitors?
Perhaps they did. Perhaps I like to think that some soul on a nice afternoon where it weren't cascading down with rainwater would sit alongside the wheel and perhaps enjoy a quick bite, I'm sure.
Well, let's have a trudge through the rain and see what other delights you've got in store for us, eh?
Why not? Why not, indeed.
What was this one used for?
It was a flax mill, Luke, actually, locally known as a line mill, flax line, built round about 1860 and water-powered from the start. It was a convenient location on the side of Foster Beck. Very, very common in Nidderdale. Flax was the most prominent textile material.
So what did they make out of the flax then, and did they do it here?
Well, they made linen. They made linen cloth, basically. And in later years, they made things such as rope and string.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And it was water-powered from the start. I believe later on, in some of the mills around here, they were supplemented by steam power. If you got a drought, such as the terrible drought we experienced last summer, for example, and they were quite common in the last century as well, well, the wheel would stop. And with the wheel stop, the mill stopped, simple as that. And production and therefore profit reached rock bottom. So they supplemented the power as soon as steam power came about, around about 1850, 1860, with steam engines.
How come this one was restored?
This was restored apparently by the owner of the property in 1990. And I must say, he's done an absolute splendid job. He's not gone over the top, it's just right.
How happy are you that one or two of them have survived and have been restored?
Well, I'm deliciously happy. Indeed, any form of historical artefacts machinery fascinates me, being an industrial historian and engineer. And I think it's marvellous that we've got these two absolutely fantastic examples we've been looking at today in Nidderdale as examples of many, many wheels that used to be not only in Nidderdale, but like I said earlier, all the way down the Pennine chain.
It's marvellous, isn't it? As you watch that wheel turning, you're watching the pages of Yorkshire's history turning as well.
Absolutely. The pages of Britain's history turning. I'm captivated by it all.
Well, I can see what you mean about his tremendous enthusiasm. I love that phrase he came out with during that interview with you, deliciously happy. It just sort of summed it all up, didn't it?
Well, he loves what he does, and it shines through, doesn't it? I mean, every time I meet him, I think to myself, if only the engineers of England, of Britain today, could be as enthusiastic and passionate as Alan, we'd still be the workshop of the world, wouldn't we?
That's true.
And incidentally, did you know that his great mate is Fred Dibner, the steeplejack?
Really?
They're very much alike. They've got the same kind of character, the same kind of passion, isn't it?
Well, talking about enthusiasm for the job, I'd say you were a person who had great passion for his vocation. How did you actually get into TV?
Oh, the very first time. That was actually, I don't like to think about it, it's more than 30 years ago. And that was on Tyne Tees television. I was a newspaper reporter first. And Tyne Tees television just started. They had a programme called Take 3. And they thought in their wisdom that they'd better invite three articulate, as they put it, three articulate northeasterners to be on this programme. And we duly arrived.
And you come from Ireland.
Well, yeah, exactly. We duly arrived on the evening. And I thought, well, I wonder if they'll mind me being Irish-born. And it turned out that the other two articulate northeasterners, one was a lady who taught at Durham University, and she was from Essex, and the third man was called Tom Bergman, and he was Czechoslovakian.
And they did well there.
But nobody seemed to bother.
And then you moved on to do the job you love, which is Dale's Diary. How did that happen?
I did, but that was after a long time. I mean, I worked on the BBC for a long time. I worked on a programme called Nationwide.
I remember that.
The old Nationwide programme. And we travelled far and wide through the British Isles, and I got a sort of reputation for doing the remote places. I mean, I landed on Rockall once, for instance, and in fact, I did the first underwater survey of Rockall. I fell off the boat. But I got this reputation for liking remote places. And side by side with that, in my spare time, I'd loved that lifelong, I mean, since I arrived in Britain, a love affair with the Dales. And the two things sort of gelled, you know what I mean, Christine? And when this idea came up, they said, Dale's Diary, and I said, I'm your man.
Lucky you, lucky you. Well, the reason I asked Luke is because Carolyn's been out and about again, finding out how to get on television, and this week, she's looking at some young hopefuls who set their sights on becoming television journalists.
Normally, to work in television, you have to get a job with one of the big TV companies. But once a year, students in our region have the chance to run their very own TV channel. It happens during the Bradford Festival, when they prepare a nightly half-hour news programme broadcast on cable TV. For media students from Trinity and All Saints College and Bradford University, it's the nearest thing they've come to real television. Overseeing them is a former YTV producer.
I suppose the thing that we hope to achieve more than anything else is basically putting together theory and practice so that students who have been working in a theoretical context for about 6 months actually come in and see that it's not as simple as they thought it was. The questions and the problems that come up minute by minute and hour by hour throughout the day have to be answered by real-life solutions and ones that you can't get out of a book.
Editing tonight's programme is a very calm Claire Ward. All the reporters have been dispatched.
We're hoping they're going to be back for 12 o'clock. And it's straight then with the VT editors into editing. So it's a very hairy business of trying to get it all done in time.
Already the lighter side of the evening show is being recorded, with presenter Mark Pearson interviewing a festival act. The previous night's show didn't go too well.
Obviously technical problems, lack of experience on our part, you know, a bit of bad luck as well. But I'm sure by the end of the week, because I think we're all having a quite good time and we're all pulling together.
Yeah, I've just got
The first reporter is back with shots from a hospital.
a shot of some patients.
And the interviews?
Somebody having open heart surgery.
Oh, good, thanks.
That sort of thing.
So you've got a minute and a half interview.
Yeah, well, we've actually got about 8 minutes of interview, but cut down it'll be about a minute and a half.
Right.
Andy Dougal should be coming in. I don't actually know what he's got because he ran out without telling me. I know he's doing debt, but I don't know who he's got.
But as the noon deadline nears, Andy's nowhere to be seen.
Claire, can I just interrupt? Yeah. It's 12 o'clock. 2 reporters, only 2 are back. How are you feeling? Nervous. No, I'm confident. I'm sure they did manage it yesterday. They can manage it today. Yeah, we're cool. Yeah? Yeah. Are you sure there's going to be a programme? Definitely, definitely.
Reporter Andy Dougal's finally got back to the newsroom, only to find his stories been dropped.
Basically, we haven't met the deadline. It won't be edited in time, and we've got a deadline approaching for the director. So it just has to go. If it's not ready, it goes.
Well, I'll have to take the rap, but it's just one of those things. It happens.
And how are you feeling?
Well, okay, I guess a little stressed, perhaps.
How does he really feel? Meanwhile, the studio's getting ready to go on air. The countdown's underway.
3, 2, 1.
Cue and cut.
On our very own beach in the middle of Bradford, Dan has been told
Roll
some
VT.
local talent who's bringing some newer to the festival.
Take it. I don't believe what I'm seeing. What is
Someone's
that?
forgotten to edit the tape, but eventually the show gets on air.
Hello and welcome to Bradford Television News.
And Claire is still keeping her cool.
I don't know, I think the key is, you know, you scream later, you scream when you're out of the office.
But not everybody waits.
A really bad day and everything's just gone wrong for me and I'm just plummeting to a pit of despair, so I'm just getting myself worked up.
And Andy, well, he's hoping his item will be ready for tomorrow. But don't worry, Andy, even professionals make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, Carol.
What are you up to, Claire?
My name's Kate.
I think sometimes Caroline can't even remember her own name. But the very best of luck to all of them in their future careers. Well, coming up in part 2, you can help crack crime in your area and earn a cash reward by phoning into Crime Stoppers. We're back in a minute. Hello, welcome back. Well, in a few moments, you'll be able to phone in to these police officers with information which could help solve crimes. This is the number to ring. But first, this week sees the start of a national recruitment campaign for the Special Constabulary. They're the so-called hobby bobbies who volunteer to give up spare time to help the police in their neighbourhood. They come from all age groups and walks of life. On the beat, they have the same powers of arrest, the same problems and the same job satisfaction as a full-time police officer, but without the pay. So what kind of person becomes a special? Well, we've been to Sheffield to meet Catherine Whittington, who's been pounding the special beat for 4 years.
My name's Catherine Whittington, I'm 23 and I'm from Sheffield. I work for South Yorkshire Police as a witness liaison officer. I deal with warning witnesses for Sheffield Magistrates Court and the day-to-day running of the case papers, people that have been summoned to court or arrested. We work on a day day-to-day basis, so we all deal with separate days. It's a serious office, we're doing a serious job, but because there's so many people, you know, it makes it a better atmosphere, it makes things a bit easier. Thanks very much, Karen. Bye. Decided to join when I was 18 and a half, which is the age for joining the police and for the specials. I decided to join because I wanted to do something working in the community and also to get an insight into what being a police officer is all about and working alongside them. I think it's unfair of a lot of people to see us as hobby bobbies. It's not a hobby that I don't think many people take up. A hobby is, as I've just been, horse riding. I don't just work and go to the specials, I've got other hobbies and other interests. I go riding, you know, when I've got time, see them the weekends and at night. I don't ride as much as I used to because I simply haven't got the time.
Pulling him down there like that. Once you've got him there, we would then go for the handcuff position. The bottom cuff goes onto the wrist and capture the bottom of the cuff in your left hand. Initially we're given 2 days training where a lot of information is given to us, general information, not law, and then every 2 weeks we have a training night where every week we do different, 2 weeks we do different things. A lot of it is giving us law, and then they put us into role play situations. The other training we're given is in the equipment we use, quick cuffs, batons and self-defence. Make sure he's not going to hit you. I think the specials have a very important role to play. They're a valuable assistance to the officers on the beat. As a community constable, which I was before I became a trainer, I used to have specials come out with me and I would take them through the jobs that we do and explain the paperwork and try to encourage them to get involved in police work and educate them in police work. And I've had several specials who've gone on to become regular police officers from the work I've done. My reason was to get an insight into what an officer does and whether it would be a job for me. There are people that join purely because they want to give something to the community. Single-handedly, there's not an awful lot we can do, but we realise that regular officers are overstretched and the manpower can't go around everywhere. So by going on duty and giving 4 hours here and there, we are helping. If you're working with an area officer, most of the night is planned. They deal with a lot of the neighbourhood problems, crimes. You could be taking statements if they've had the car broken into or any thefts, giving crime, advice. There's some laughs, there's some sad times, depending on what you go to. It's just so varied, you just can't pin it down to one particular thing. Sometimes it is very mundane and it can be very quiet. And you can be driving about and very little happens. If you are interested in what goes on around you, this is one way of getting involved and doing something about it.
If they have a secure job, but they're thinking of the police, they can come in, be a special, and if they don't like it, they've not given up a secure career to do a job that they weren't sure of. It's a good training ground. It's an ideal opportunity for people who've got time on their hands and want to do something for the community on a voluntary basis. They can come into the Special Constabulary and work alongside regular officers. And of course they can work within reason where they want.
It's interesting and it really gets you going.
Well, joining me now in the Tonight studio is Alan Richards, who's a senior special with the South Yorkshire Force. Alan, how seriously are specials taken, both by the people on the streets and by real police officers?
Well, they're taken very seriously nowadays. Whilst out on the street, the member of the general public can't tell very often that they're talking to a special constable, whilst the regulars can tell because of the uniform and slight differences in the uniform. The general public couldn't, and that's why we've got to be as professional as we possibly can be.
OK, well, we have a number which we'll put up on screen now, and you can ring this number if you want a fact sheet on more information on becoming a special. But what kind of person becomes a special?
People from all different walks of life. We're not looking for any one type of person in particular because everybody's got a skill to be able to bring to the service. We are looking for people that are fit and healthy, and we're looking for people that are well educated so that they're able to perform the duties that are requested of them. They perform all the same duties as the regular police officer, so it's as important that they're able to do the job of a police officer as a police officer is, because there is a distinction, of course, in that we're part-time, but when you're dealing with the public, it's professionalism that matters.
OK, so what would you have to do if you actually wanted to become a special now?
Well, there is an induction course. First of all, we invite people to come along to an open evening so they can find out about the Special Constabulary. Following that, if they're successful in their application, we will invite them to come along to a fitness training day, at which they do their fitness test, and subject to be passing through that, they continue with the rest of the day on what we call the police induction course, and so it's quite in depth.
OK, Alan, well, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about that. And if you do want information on on becoming a special, then we'll give that number again at the end of the programme. OK, well, in a few moments we'll be crossing over to the phones, but first I'd like to make it clear just what a difference your calls and information can make to the police. The Crime Stoppers free phone line in the region has received more than 4,000 calls from members of the public so far this year. As a result of tip-offs made, more than 600 people have been arrested in connection with crimes. The calls are made in confidence and can result in cash rewards. 602 people have been charged with almost 1,300 separate offences, ranging from attempted murder to burglary and car crime. So far this year, stolen property worth almost £380,000 has been recovered from criminals, and caches of illegal drugs worth more than £1,700,000. If you can help catch a criminal and build on this success story, then phone now 0800 555 111. So this is where you can help to continue to make Crime Stoppers a success. Watch carefully, because we're going to show you some faces you may recognise. They're on a series of security videos released by the police because they want to talk to the people featured on them. Our first port of call is at a shop in Intake in Doncaster. The two men near the till are distracting the assistant while a third man goes into the stockroom at the back. He then comes out carrying a box which concealed a stolen handbag. Do you know any of the three men? Call the officers on the phones now. Police want to talk to this man following the theft of £280 from a bank in Sheffield this summer. Who is he? The man in the red jacket in the doorway of this jeweller's shop in Halifax was interested in a gold chain in the window. When an assistant took it out for him to look at more closely, he took hold of it and ran out of the shop. He was chased but escaped. Can you name him? The man with the denim jacket and ponytail pictured on the right of this supermarket video in Halifax tried to claim winnings from lottery scratch cards. The cards had earlier been stolen from a shop in Sorby Bridge. Do you recognise him? Police believe this man, pictured in a nightclub queue in Batley in West Yorkshire, may have information about an indecent assault on a 19-year-old woman. Who is he? These men were pictured leaving an electrical shop in Bridlington shortly after a scanner was stolen from a display there. Who are they? Finally, this man went into a sports shop in Selby and stole 11 football shirts. He was seen to leave the town in a stolen car. Can you name him? OK, and if you have got any information which could be of use, then please refer to the letter that you saw with each individual piece there. Now, tonight is about to go off the air, but these officers will be here for quite some time yet to take your call. I'll just briefly find out what's been happening on the phones. Detective Constable Barry Jeffrey, how many calls have you had tonight?
Well, Christine, as you can see, all the call takers are extremely busy. It's been an excellent response. Already so far, in such a short time, we've had an identity, we think, for the gentleman who borrowed the gold care bracelet from the jewellers in Halifax.
Really?
And also 2 or 3 callers giving the same name for the indecent assault at Batley.
Great news, great news. So keep those calls coming in. Well, that's just about it for Monday night. Carolyn's with us for the inside story on an unusual wedding tomorrow, and we'll have Alex Hall with more answers to your problems. That's tomorrow at 6:30. Good night. If you'd like more information on the specials, then call our fact sheet line on 0645 80 85 90.